morning show, Black Power Media, in case you didn't know. And I am the Ear Doctor. And let me introduce you to your host today. You got no other than Kamal K. Burn It Down, Kim Brown. Tierney Cherie. And Kalaji Jamachanga.
What up? What it do?
Yeah.
Camera looks
Good
sad.
morning. Good morning. How everybody doing? Whoa.
Morning, black folks.
Turn that camera like that.
Hey, man, you know.
Like a bus was shaking and shit.
Nah, I mean, be rocking the building. That's what's going on today. I got to straighten it out a little bit. What's good with y'all?
Good. Hi, Tierney Cherie.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
That's good.
Kim Brown, how you?
Beautiful, baby. Beautiful. Springtime, you know what I'm saying? I finally get to loose myself from the chains of this cold weather. Yes. I'm not meant to be on this continent, and the weather tells me that every season, every winter. This is not my natural state of being. So thankfully, the warmth, the sun has come back to kiss the skin. Jesus, I need it so bad.
Is it warming up in Baltimore? Because I'm actually supposed to be out in Baltimore, and I think in about a week or two or something. A friend of mine is getting their PhD, and I'm paying a little visit for their graduation.
Hey, see, I was about to say something sinister, like you was going to Baltimore to pick up a package or something. Wonderful. Yes, Baltimore will be beautiful by the time that you arrive for your event. DMV does spring amazing. Like spring is gorgeous around here. Maryland gets very green and very lush. I love spring around here.
Yo, it was like mad hot down here in Atlanta. It was like 85. I had to turn the AC on. Got to go DJ a prom this weekend.
Oh,
yeah. And I got to see all the kids out because, you know, these past years, they haven't been able to have proms or been able to celebrate. So it was beautiful to see them out having a good time and celebrating my son's 17th birthday. Got him a fresh live Black Power Media shirt. Yeah.
Born dates.
It was
I see he's a better looking version of you, I see. Looks like his mom's.
Come out.
I'm being complimentary. I said he was a good-looking lad.
You just could have said he's a handsome young man. Why you have to take a jab?
That was dirty. Somebody said he looked like his real dad.
See, I didn't go that far. You know what I'm saying?
Wasn't me.
806.
Anyway.
Y'all are
He does look a little like me. Yeah, he does.
I catch y'all next break. I'm being nice this morning.
Yo, welcome to the RemiX Morning Show. Where these cats is off the mom's wall. You know what I'm saying? And it's all good. What's happening, good people? How y'all feeling out there?
Good. Changes in the air, right?
Changes in the air.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely in the air. Definitely in the air. I want to, if you all don't mind, I want to. I had 2 deaths in the family last week.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that.
One is the extended revolutionary family. One was my younger cousin, Courtney. She transitioned at age 34. In fact, her birthday would have been this week. It was unexpected, you know, so I want to definitely shout her out because she was a youngster on her way to being an organizer, a good organizer. So I want to shout her out. And I also want to shout out OG Shaka. I want to dedicate this show right here to OG Shaka Thinning, who was the chairman of the Black August Organizer Committee. In fact, he was the one responsible for bringing Black August out of the prison system to the public arena in 1979 after the death of Qatari Golden in 1978. He was a leader in the Black Guerrilla family. Of course, we know that the Black Guerrilla family was started by Field Marshal George Jackson and W.L. Nolan, who were 2 brothers assassinated behind the walls in the California prison system. And I served under his leadership for close to 20 years. You know, so we have a number of different things that will be going on in his honor. So I definitely want to salute him this year. I want to announce that we will be back with Black August Hard. We will be doing a Black August Political Prisoner Conference from the 19th of August to the 21st. So hopefully you all can join us live and direct in Atlanta And the following week we'll be in Richmond, Virginia. But I just wanted to big up his legacy because of the fact there are so many warriors out there who people know nothing about. You know what I'm saying? But they have advanced off the fruit of their labors. So, I definitely wanted to salute our OG elder, Baba Shaka Athena. So yes, wanted to start it off with that. In love.
Yeah, people like a lot of the elders are starting to pass. I mean, like, a few weeks ago we had Ahmed Obafemi. So there's a lot of folks. People got to get to know these people, read their history, visit them, see them, support them now, because it's a generation. The 60s and the 70s, and now I guess like 50 years, 60 years, right, in our rear view mirrors and stuff like that. So.
Yes.
Folks who talk so much about that time period, and it means so much to a lot of us in terms of setting the struggle on a certain course. And so reach out to these folks, talk to them. They're here. The ones that are here remain. They do like to talk about the things that they learned, the mistakes they made, the good things that they do. And so, yeah, we wish people would do that a little bit more and support them.
No doubt. Yes. We're gonna have a powerful show today because that's what we do around here at the RemiX Morning Show. Shout out to all the good folks in the chat for supporting us and helping this channel, this platform grow. It's a wonderful thing. Again, we're a little over a year in existence as far as Black Power Media, and a little over a year in existence in regards to the RemiX Morning Show. So, we're loving it. We're growing, and we ready for revolution, so it's a lot of good things coming up, a lot of great things coming up from the platform, a lot of new shows coming up on the platform. You know what I mean? So definitely stay tuned because, we want to give it to you, like you need it, so that's what we talking about here. Kamal just made this face because his mind is always somewhere else, but it's okay.
Come on, it sounded a little iffy. It sounded a little iffy at the time when it was said.
Hey man, I was thinking of
ODB.
Oh,
I was laughing too.
Come on now.
Tierney was in her sainthood. You know what I'm saying? So you were all alone this time, Kamal.
Oh, Tyranny got it.
I saw Kamal smiling. Yeah.
That's what it was. Anyway, what's good, man? Y'all solemn and whatnot.
No, there's been a little bit of a kerfuffle happening over in the UK where Black British women are fed up. So apparently there was a Twitter community of some problematic gentlemen, let's just call them that. And they were making comments to themselves or tweets to themselves in a community that they thought was private, but it wasn't. And some of these comments included derision specifically of dark-skinned women, saying that it's okay to beat dark-skinned women because they don't bruise, wishing death upon some Black women. And mind you, this is a very small contained thing. But because these tweets went public and went viral, Black British sisters have been talking about this quite a bit for the last couple of weeks. And I've been listening to these spaces. And let me just say, this is a community I hope to never, ever cross. Because when I tell you these women have been cussing these men, I've never heard cussing like this. And I came up in the Def Comedy Jam era. And these Black British, Caribbean, and African women have been cussing these men to pieces. And it has been amazing. So I know that this is not our space per se, but I would definitely encourage everybody to sort of pay attention to the dialogue that is happening across the pond. I see Ursula Baptiste in here. Ursula, you did not tell me that the Black British women would cuss you like that, girl. I did not know. But yeah, it's an issue.
Was it Black dudes or white dudes or it was a Black dude saying it, and they thought the tweets were private?
Yes. They created a Twitter community, and apparently these gentlemen were unclear that despite that only the members of the community could respond to tweets, the tweets were public to everybody. Everybody could see these tweets. And then there was a sister that they seemed to target. Her name is Kalichi. Kalichi has an amazing podcast, by the way. If you're not already subscribed to Kalichi's podcast, she is outstanding. She is outstanding, but she's a very visible, dark-skinned woman on social media. She's doing different ventures, and they target her and another dark-skinned sister. I can't remember her name. Maybe it's Olunoni, and just random stuff, but violent, calling for death upon them, death upon their family. One of the sisters has a white partner, shitting on the fact that she has a white partner. But a lot of her content is about advocating for Black British folks, right? So it's like, well, temper, why are you concerned about what color her partner is when in your comments in your community you complain about Black women's hair, attitude, they loud, they this, they that. Anyway, it's an interesting conversation to be witnessing, and I go in these Twitter spaces and I just listen because I am of the wrong nationality and of the wrong skin complexion really to be commenting on this shit, right? It's a place for the British dark skinned women to vent and share their frustrations. But dog, please don't ever let these women cuss me because I would just go home and cry. I would go under the desk. I would go hide. Oh my gosh, the women. So many women told these men to go back in the vaginas. Like, just go back in the vagina. I said, oh Jesus, please stop. Enough. But yeah, it's interesting.
Maybe during the break you can put somebody's Twitter handle in the chat, and then we could, like, if people want to, they can go follow the fighting or the issues or the conversation or whatever on Twitter or whatever like that.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
It's amazing that all the things they shut down on Twitter, but something like this, they let ride. You know what I'm saying? If it would have been, something talking about, let's say Trump or whatever, then it would have been a whole nother program or whatever. It would have been something talking about vaccines or any of that type stuff, they'll shut it down. But when it comes to the abuse of African people, and particularly women, it's always, it's cool because it's acceptable because, it's mimicking those who oppress and who have traditionally oppressed us. What I would like to suggest to those good sisters out there, I know there's a couple great African-centered martial arts schools out there. And you could talk to Balagoon about it because our international instructor is actually a brother by the name of Akim Bobola, and he's from over that way. So, definitely could put you in touch with so that way, when they talking that shit, you just go ahead and surprise them one day, set it off.
Kalonji, listen, there is a sister who I've discovered in these spaces. Her name is Olawu Blanco. And when she is the best cusser of them all. Like, to the point, I'm like, I followed her on everything. I followed her YouTube channel, followed her on Twitter. I'm like, oh my God, please, sis, show me your ways. I want to know. But one of their major complaints about this space is that the way that the brothers had framed the space, and again, specifically, we're talking about a relatively small group of men. And so, please don't hit us with not all Black men. We know that. Okay. We know that. But what the sisters complaint is that the way that this space was framed is that this is a space for Black men to speak their minds freely, right? This is a space for them, they can say whatever they want. So they were being as misogynistic as they wanted, as colorist as they wanted, as homophobic as they wanted. And it's like, bros, we thought y'all wanted spaces to heal. We thought that y'all wanted to create communities, to talk about issues that affect specifically Black men. And they created a space in order to specifically just be toxic, right? And that I think is one of the most bothersome things, specifically to the Black British women who have been engaged in this dialogue.
Well, speaking of Twitter space, amongst other things, we will be talking about Elon Musk.
Elon Musty.
Yeah, his acquisition of Twitter. But before we do that, and before we go to the news and slap the map and all that good crap, we're going to take it to the man with the ears, the doctor himself. And he's going to give us something good.
Sounds like a bunch of rubbish, isn't it?
Dog. Listen, ear doctor. The sisters was going in on the bruvs. Your hairline, rubbish. Your penis, rubbish. I was like, bro, please stop. it. They've had enough since to get off of his neck. Get off of his neck.
I mean, that
please.
sounds about as toxic as hip hop Atlanta and all these other shows, but you know.
Yeah, but this shit was aimed at something specific, though. You know, you dig? Like, this wasn't just shit on men for the purpose of shitting on men. This was specifically shitting on this group of definitely toxic anti-black men. And
I think we need to stop using the word men so lightly. It's a definition to that word, and it ain't being used. But let's go ahead and get back to this break, and then we're gonna show them what a real man do. Let's get it right here on Black Power Media.
RemiX morning show.
It's the RemiX morning show. If you ain't know, you here, right here. That's right. This is the year 2022. Make sure y'all hit that like button, that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, go to patreon.com and drop some change in the bucket for Black Power Media so we can keep this train forward motion. You know what I mean? All right. So with that said, it's time to get y'all the weather. It's been it's getting there, y'all. It's getting there. This weather's been real tricky, but we getting warm again. So let's first start off in Miami, Florida, where they got a high today of 81 degrees. Miami just beat down ATL in basketball. In case y'all didn't know, if y'all keeping up with that, if y'all not, so what? All right, boom. So let's take it to Brooklyn, aka Brooklyn, New York. They got a high today of 61 degrees. So big up to BK. Let's take it to the west side. Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon, they got a high today of 54 degrees. 54. Next, let's take it down to Cuba. Santa Clara, Cuba. They got a high today of 87 degrees. Sounds real nice down there. Now, let's take it to Kufara, Libya. That's right. They got a high today of 103. It is John Blaze out there. Yes, it's nice and hot. Now, let's take it over to Pavek, Russia. That's right. They got a high today of 17 degrees, and it's gonna get up to 35. But that's cold. That's pretty cold. But I'll tell you what's even colder than that. The fact that this right here is killing a lot of us. In case you didn't know, this is white sugar. That's right. White sugar is it pretty much comes from the cane sugar, but it's made over and redone so that they could get the most out of it and make the most money and get you addicted. Now, sugar has taken you all the way back to when there was a huge demand for labor cultivated in the Caribbeans and in Brazil. So that's where they had the transatlantic slave trade, and resulted brought over 12 million Africans over, shipped from Africa to Americas from 1501 to 1867. The mortality rates could reach as high as up to 25% on each voyage, and between 1 and 2 million dead must have been thrown overboard. All one of the reasons is because of this right here that's killing people. Now, that's sugar. That's that white sugar. Now, for those who gotta have sugar, try something like sugar in a raw or something. Get you some pure cane sugar and get your diet right. That's all I gotta say. But that's what it is for the weather today. Let's get back to the RemiX morning show. You know how we do. Yeah.
It's like how you had the props. You went into the kitchen cabinet, got the brown sugar packet.
That's what he did.
You know, he got the box right there next to him. He's like, bam, this is the healthy alternative.
I know we talk about a lot of murders and killings, but one of the biggest, boy, sugar. That thing right there will have you addicted. Everybody, diet, food, we dying, diabetes, heart attacks, blah. So, you know, it's about
time.
It's
always weird to me when someone says they're on a diet.
Especially the older we get. I'm not calling you tyranny, but you know, these other ones.
Man.
I'm sorry, I was stepping on your line, my man. I'm
all
sorry.
All over.
I apologize. I'll do that again here, doctor. That's my bad.
I don't even know what I just said, but yeah. Make sure
I didn't know what you just said either. So only the doctor can go from colder than the white man to colder to white sugar. That's cool, man. I appreciate that.
Boy, I tell you.
Hey,
that's what it is. That's your weather report. Catch y'all next break.
All right, stay sweet. Anyway.
If Obama hadn't have fucked up Libya, that 103 degrees sound real nice in Libya right now. Woo!
Wow.
Yes.
Obama.
Fucking NATO bastards.
With that in mind, slap the map.
Slap the map.
Yes, sure. Welcome to the Remix Morning Show. Ha! We can get all type of news. It ain't even been 30 minutes in, and we done talked about all types of. We done went from revolutionaries to crazy Brits to the weather in Libya to the ear doctor talking about the diet. It's only on the Remix Morning Show.
All in one, baby. One-stop shop. You ain't gotta go nowhere else. Right here. Black Power Media. Y'all know what time it is. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Follow Black Power Media places. Go to blackpowermedia.org. Get your swag. Get your t-shirt. Get your coffee mug. Do everything you can. Support and promote the channel. We appreciate y'all have been rocking with us for a year plus. Where are we at right now, subscriber-wise? We north of 16,000, yes?
Yeah, about
16,400.
Yeah. And counting. You know what I'm saying? So we think that
250 Patreons, although that should be higher.
Yeah. Our Black August will be up to 20,000, you know what I'm saying, on the subscription. That's my prediction. You know, we're gonna skip it just like that. But anyway, we got a lot of good news. Well, not a lot of good news. First, before you all go anywhere, let me just say we do have a dynamite season organizer that will be joining us at 9:00. So stay tuned for that. But before that, we can start off with the news. Tyranny, Kim, would you all like to
Hey, look, Kamal, my co-producer Kamal, about to pick up this here link. I'm dropping in this here chat.
I got you.
I'm glad, and maybe we should save this for the organizer, but Kalanji, you are here and you will more than suffice. So this link was posted, not originally, but she posted it to her Twitter feed. Her name is Ashley Yates. Ashley Yates is a young organizer, one of the original Ferguson activists, obviously in the wake of the murder of Mike Brown and then the subsequent Ferguson uprisings. I believe Ashley is from Ferguson, and she has been witness to not only a lot of Ferguson activists being killed, but also the co-optation of the Ferguson movement by the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. And Ashley posted this video to her Twitter page, and I think it was important for all of us to see this. Now, Kamal, I'm saying we're going to play it from 0, maybe to like at 3 minutes, because that's where I clicked it. I was going to play it on my show, but I said, nope. This is way more appropriate for Black Power Media. So what we're about to see here, we're about to see some of the founders. Well, you got to, what's happening?
You ready? You want me to start it?
I just heard a bunch of interference. No, don't start it. Hold on. Wait a second. So these are some of the founders of Black Power. Jesus Christ. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is Patrice Cullors, and I want to. Maybe this is Alicia Garza. I'm not really sure. I don't know what these people look like in person. But anyway, they are at the mansion, right? The $6 million property in the Valley that they purchased for the purpose of content creators and for people to have a safe space to come and relax and unwind. And, you know, that $6 million, it was better spent on a mansion, y'all, than to be redistributed in the community. But they are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And it is just a very tone deaf and just sort of like a dystopian sort of conversation and mood. So yeah, let's take it from there, Brother Kamal.
Gotcha.
I'm so glad to have the both of you here and in person. Yes. It's been a really intense 1.5 years.
That was a nice way to talk about it.
Right.
And I look up to the both of you so much. You know, you're big sisters to me, you're movement leaders, you're gangsters. But you're also like folks that I literally call like when I'm having a joyful moment, but also when shit's going down. And I just want to ask y'all, like, it's gonna be a year since Freedom Summer, and a lot of shit went down. And how are you doing? Like, how are you feeling?
I feel good because I thought it was gonna kill us. What was great about it is we were prepared for it in a way, like as much as you can be, because we've been organizing for 7 years.
That's right.
And so there was a movement to meet the moment.
Yes.
And there was, I remember when everything started popping off, and it was just like constant, and I felt overwhelmed. And I talked to you about it, and I also recognized that we have to rest later. Like we have to move everything. The world cracked wide open, right? You know, I got into that Lovecraft Country. You know, that was my thing.
I'm obsessed.
I know.
I'm obsessed.
We needed it. We needed it.
That.
But remember, like when Hippolyta was literally holding that the portal open, the portal open. Like I feel like that's what was happening. A portal opened, right? And how the whole community had to rush in to save D, right? To save our Black future, right? Like that's what was happening. But it wasn't Hippolyta. It's George Floyd's spirit holding it open, and Breonna Taylor. And so we didn't, you know, you talk about me for this. We didn't have a right to our rest in that moment. Like it's go through the portal, save the future, put everything you can in, and we can rest later. So I feel really good about not giving ourselves rest, about the amount of energy and love and imaginative, what is it? Imagination that we gave, and that, you know, we're transforming budgets and policy and the way that people think about Black people. And all of a sudden, you know, we spent 7 years trying to argue with people about why we have to say Black Lives Matter. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, Black Lives Matter.
We talk about this concept of safety, but what does it actually look like and feel like? And we got to collectively imagine that and put it into practice in a way that I've never seen. What is safety? Like, what does safety actually look like? And we got to do that together. I was talking to Angela about this, Angela Davis, and she was like, I never thought in my lifetime that I would hear people talk about abolition and defund at the popular public sphere, that it would be a conversation in the news media that people are figuring out and talking about. And so it's just powerful because so much of that work happened here in Los Angeles. And so much of that was led by your courage and the team's courage here.
Remember, we used to pretend like we weren't defund the police because this is a budget issue, right? And now we are talking about abolition. Yeah, we kind of just mean abolition.
What about you, Egg?
I think that's good. I think we're good here, Kamal.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm feeling.
I think that's quite enough of them. So I'm seeing the comments in the chat, and you guys are echoing the sentiments that I think a lot of us who when they saw that video also share. I mean, Kamal, Kalanji, Tyranny. I mean, guys, have y'all ever toasted champagne to mark the 1-year anniversary of a lynching?
No,
Have you ever gone out to brunch? You have a brunch to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of a lynching and kikied it up over champagne?
First of all, I've never seen an anniversary of a lynching. Let's start with that. You know what I'm saying? It's not an anniversary; is a celebration. We don't celebrate our assassinations. We don't celebrate our deaths, so on and so forth. And words matter, as folks say, because of the fact that at times they were like, "Well, it's the same thing." It's not the fucking same thing. It's a commemoration. You know what I'm saying? It is not a celebration of the assassination of George Jackson. It's not a celebration of the murder, the cold-blooded murder that the entire planet got to witness. That's number one. Secondly, I thought I was watching Black Table Talk or some shit, and I was waiting for some a woman version of Will Smith to come slap the shit out of those people for sitting at that table with those flutes and toasting it up, talking about they were pretending at first And then they was actually defunding the budget, the police budget, and all that type of stuff. I think it's disgusting to sit up in the mansion and to I guess celebrate your accomplishments, which I don't know what they are besides a $6 million mansion and co-opting a movement, because that's pretty much what happened. So many people claimed the work of freedom fighters who've been on the ground and who are sincere about our work. And I know that there are sincere forces within those ranks, but unfortunately they were being misled. And I'm really floored if someone put a video of me being at some shit like that online, I would want it taken down immediately, because that was disgusting.
She did take it down, by the way. She did take it down. And Ashley, and I don't know who the person who was able to capture the video, because from what I understand, this was posted to Patrice Cullors' YouTube channel. And I don't know if she privated all of her videos or if she just took them all down, but I don't believe that this video was available any longer on her channel. But some enterprising person was savvy enough to grab it and to re-upload it and post it so that we could see it. And I think that we needed to see it.
I thought it was a very telling video, honestly, because in some ways, people who kind of get off on deception, they kind of out themselves in their true intentions. I think they really were celebrating, because if you think about what they actually got from that whole protest movement, they got millions of dollars. Still much that has not been spent. So still much that has not been even planned for, still much that their lawyers are trying to supposedly come up with some plan for. And I think that's honestly the celebration. If you think about if we were thinking Black Lives Matter was on the forefront of this, and I know they weren't, but if for what they have done, we're not in a better position than we were at the beginning. I even cringe when I hear people say freedom summer. What freedom? We're still, I mean, we just had the brother got shot in the back of the head, execution style. They just now released the police name after like weeks. We're not in a better situation. So even trying to make it this catchy thing like, oh, this is where, police brutality came to an end. No, it's not. So I think what they're celebrating the money that they got. They're celebrating the fact that they were able to successfully hijack a movement. They're celebrating the notoriety and the visibility that they got as organizers, despite the fact that they're not, in my opinion, an authentic version of what organizing looks like, and they got away with it. I mean, they now left the organization and they're off living their happy lives. One of them joined Hollywood and whatnot. So they're celebrating. They shouldn't be, but they're celebrating because they have something to celebrate.
They look like grave robbers splitting the spoils.
I mean, I see it as just I think what Kim said at the beginning was just the tone deafness of it all. And in some ways, I feel bad for them, because I feel like some of these folks think of themselves as real activists and organizers for the community. They have years of history, and the fact that they've done this over and over again. And and somebody mentioned this in the chat, it's sort of the petty bourgeois aspect of the lifestyle that they're sort of celebrating. Like, who has a catered, obviously big catered brunch to talk about such a serious issue around what's happening in the Black community? And like you said, to be toasting, to not even understand that the fact that the rebellions happened were based off of someone's murder. So the fact that you're toasting the 1 year anniversary of something, it's the 1 year anniversary of someone being assassinated by the police. And so who does that with champagne glasses, with a catered brunch? Who understands that that's just not real life for so how do you direct a movement? And I think you, Tyrion, I think you also, folks made out big and basically set themselves up for the rest of their lives, their family, people around them. There's still money. There's still sort of a wash in money. People still think that that's a center point for movement activity. People have left and now have distanced themselves even from the organization or the apparatus they started. And so they, I think in their minds, they have to understand at some point that what they've done is now turned to shit. But it's $100 million shit bag that they controlled and started. And I'm always careful to say, I don't want to put all the blame on, one of the sisters obviously was not even near the other one who helped start it. I don't put all the blame on them because I think this is an inherited fiasco that other movement people established, and people like, again, going back to Jesse Jackson and then later Al Sharpton. This is just this kind of movement takeover on steroids. And they've been able to do it to a certain level that Jesse wished he had, that Al Sharpton probably wished he had. But they didn't invent the hustle. They just brought it to a new generation. And it's like, one last tidbit, like, I guess the new season of Atlanta is out. And they had this episode where they talked about sort of white fashion, but it was basically a mix in there of talking about movement co-optation. And they had a D-Ray McKinnison character and a Sean King character. And it was laying it out about how basically these folks, without challenging the system, try to extract resources out of it and what turns out to be for their own benefit. So they can get close to Hollywood, so they can get on fashion magazines, so they can get close to elected officials and talk to them and feel like they're in those circles. And as you guys stated, nothing changes on the ground. So, so that's what they're toasting to. They in their lives change forever. The vast majority of Black folks' lives have remained the same.
But Kamau, I mean, I'm trying to understand a tad bit into the motivation for wanting to film this, edit this, produce this, and put this on the internet. They
have no idea. That's the thing. I'm sorry to interrupt. They have no idea that they're in their minds, this is exactly what they're supposed to do. It's only until, because they don't talk to no real organizers no more. Right? They don't talk. All those people have been excluded from the program. Anybody who challenges, critiques, comments, says maybe you're heading in the wrong direction, those people get thrown out. They get non-disclosure statements. They get threatened with lawsuits. They're considered the enemy. They even claim that those folks are the folks who are siding up with right-wing press and media to defame these special Black women. And how dare you challenge them on what they do in their activities and so forth. So those folks, anybody who questions the idea that somehow they're headed in the wrong direction, those people have been exiled. And that the sister who posted it was somebody who at one point was in Black Lives Matter, if I remember correctly, and was one of those people who, when she challenged the internal workings, as many have, again, they were thrown to the side. So these people have no idea that what they're doing is coming off looking like they're crazy people who are basically sitting up as if George Floyd's corpse is somehow under the table, and they're sitting there celebrating that shit, right? They have no idea how that looks. They think in their mind that this is that they somehow either accomplished something, that they've got these resources, and that they've spent these resources, and that they're on top of the world and nobody can touch them.
But it looks good, to their publicists. It looks good to their corporate sponsors. It looks good to those who are really behind them. And I think that I don't necessarily know if I agree with them not knowing how crazy they look. I think it's more of an arrogance of not giving a fuck. And I think that one of the things that we rarely address is class issues within movement and struggle, right? There's class issues amongst the liberation movement. You have so many people because they didn't just come out of a vacuum, right? They were sponsored and they were propped up by legitimate activists. They could not have existed if there was no cosign. But the problem was when you lack political education, sometimes you get caught up in emotionalism and sensationalism. And folks got caught up in the quote unquote moment, and they mistaken the moment for the movement. And when you do that, you crash, you burn, and you die. And other people will die because of the fact that you're looking at this shit like we're about to form revolution, and you come up with these slogans. I was just talking to one of the comrades the other day, and he was telling me about some folks that got arrested at some protests. Now they're calling themselves the something 26. They were locked up for fucking 2 days. You know what I'm saying? And here it is. Historically, they will go down in history as being comparing themselves to legitimate political prisoners. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that they weren't arrested for political actions. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that there are people who have been locked up for over 60 years right here in the United States. Right here in the United States, there have been people who have executed, people who have murdered, so on and so forth. So how fucking dare you consider yourself or compare yourself to these people? And what these people here at that table did, what they did is they replaced the white faces in high places and they put themselves in that same order. So yes, I agree with Kamal when he talk about the Jesse Jackson started this shit. But someone has to come along and finish this shit, because of the fact that there's going to be a whole lot more Black Lives Matters and movement for Black lives and black asses and black cats and black fish, all that shit. This is going to be a continuum because of the fact that it's not being properly addressed. Until we isolate these motherfuckers, until we totally out them, not just by talking shit every time they stand up publicly, if they do, we have to shut that shit down. And anybody that supports them, we have to shut them down as well, because of the fact that this is a crime. This is, like I said, this is what grave robbers do. They're literally eating off the carcass of the George Floyds that have gone before them and the George Floyds that will come after them. And we're sitting back talking about, look at these motherfuckers. Fuck them. We have to deal with them like criminals, because they are war criminals at this point. You understand what I'm saying? Because you cannot sit there. You cannot sit there and celebrate and talk about the accomplishments and your achievements while standing on the bodies of folks who have been murdered brutally by the state. So by default, you are in partnership. You're in cahoots with the state because of the fact that you're collecting that loose, you're collecting that money. You know what I'm saying? And literally celebrating online. Somebody, I'm not calling for violence, but somebody need to smack the shit out of all of them. That's just what I got to say. And that's just that, man, because that is criminal. It's straight criminal. If we say, oh, somebody defended their woman, then somebody need to defend our race and need to defend humanity against fucking thieves and parasites like that, man. It is disgusting, man. It's totally disgusting, man.
Well, all righty then. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to piss everybody off first thing in the morning. My bad. I thought that would be a compelling talking point.
Yeah, it's criminal.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, y'all, well, we all have a right to be mad, but you guys specifically have a right to be mad because, I mean, this is what you do, right? And you see it being bastardized, being co-opted, and the hubris exuded from that clip. I mean, it's troubling. It's troubling. So.
And I will say too, like, and these aren't like these folks, some of them at least, the ones at least I know of, aren't necessarily, they weren't born in middle class lifestyles, right? And some of these people have political education. So these aren't like the bourgeois elite who are doing this. These are Black folks who, again, get tempted by the larger wealth generation that America does to capture movements, right? These are folks who were told, this is how you go about it, right? This and shifted something that was on the street, local, that people were taking action in the community, and made it all about policy, right? So it was all about policy change. Let's clean up that street action and make it all about policy. And as I say often, like, they tried to do this whole, it's a leaderless movement. Everybody's accountable to themselves. But when it came time for the money, they definitely were leaders of the money, right? That was not some large collective decision-making process. There were people who took responsibility for getting the money, for deciding what happens with it, for who gets to spend it, and all the rest of it. That was not a democracy. That was not an autonomous action, right? And folks, and a lot of the reasons the chapters who around the country started to develop. I mean, think about it. That you had literally hundreds of chapters that developed out of this, and people were saying, fund the work that we're doing locally. And the response was, you're autonomous for the most part. You do you. We'll spotlight what you do. We'll get more checks up here. And again, they didn't create the system. There's a lot of different organizations out there that are national in scope, right? That have come up over the last 15, 20 years. They're national in scope, And what they do is say, they go to these funders and they say to these funders, look, we are here to tell you what the folks in the street are doing. And since they're so small, you give us the money. And what we'll do is help divide up and make a larger policy analysis and a national policy, and we'll make sure that they get some of the bread. So these large groups will get 10 million, and then they'll take 1 million of that and they'll divide it up amongst like 15 different on the ground organizations. So 30 or 40 or 50 different groups on the ground. They each get 20,000. Why that big organization, which is using all the film, all the pictures of everything those folks are doing locally, they get $9 million to get themselves big salaries to build out their larger national platform and program. And all the while, those folks on the ground who are doing that local work, they'll get a check for 20 G's. And it's like, see, we hooked you up. That's the hustle now. The hustle, there's like 5 or 6 different organizations that are national in scope that do work on that basis alone, claiming to do policy work, not getting any policy passed. Right.
Sorry.
But that's the hustle now.
Yeah. Claiming to do policy work, not getting no policy passed. It's a good gig if you can get it, right?
Joe Biden said, "Just give me them votes. What I'm gonna do is pass an 80-year-old lynching bill.
Dog.
That's what I'm gonna do for you. Come celebrate that."
Hey, Tierney has another story. Let's hop off this shit before I jump through the screen and and run up on their YouTube channel or something. But Tierney, what you got to talk about, man, before you jet out?
Like an FYI, just because I think we have to know what's going on. If you can, I shared my screen if someone could add it to the thank you. But basically, I'm sure many of you have heard the French president Emmanuel Macron was re-elected over the past couple of days. And he won 58% of the vote in his country. He beat the right-wing contender Marine Le Pen. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that French presidents basically don't get reelected. So basically, he's the first French president in 20 years to be reelected. Of course, this has a lot to do with African people, as we know, because the French presence inside of Africa, the colonial presence inside of Africa is still persistent. I'm not, obviously I'm not a fan of Emmanuel Macron. I wouldn't be a fan of the person that got elected anyways, because again, it's not just one person and one individual as far as like where this anti-African and colonial sentiment is in France. It's really a political machine. That's one thing that you really seen in this election. All types of presidential candidates, you just seen them saying very anti-African, anti-immigration stances, and it's because it's really a strong system of belief that they are superior and they have basically this right to dictate the politics of African countries. But I do think it's worth noting, a lot of African presidents are congratulating Emmanuel Macron. We got BPM Ali, Paul Kagame, one of my favorites, least favorite. Nana Akufo-Addo, of course, he's always quick to congratulate. Macky Sall, of course, the DRC. So, I just wanted to let that be an FYI in case anyone hadn't heard about that.
I had heard about that. I invited a guy. I meant to send y'all an email Thursday morning. A French professor. I invited him to join us to sort of give us some context about what the election in France meant for African people there. But I mean, basically, this was a Biden-Trump sort of election where it is a right-wing white supremacist and then a far right-wing white supremacist on the ballot, because Macron, oh Lord, I mean, he is Biden, yeah, and maybe even worse than Biden in some ways. But I think people are definitely focusing on the fact that Marine Le Pen, I think this was her 3rd time running for president, and that this was the biggest share of the vote that a far right-wing candidate had ever gotten, 42%. And I guess the other liberal powers of Europe are breathing a sigh of relief that this far right-wing person didn't get elected, because then what? It would have got more racist somehow. Like, I don't know why Le Pen. I mean, I do know why, but it's interesting why they prefer Macron over Le Pen. They don't like, I guess, the Trumpism of right-wing candidates. Maybe they're a little bit too unpredictable and don't have enough decorum, etc. But it was interesting to see. And I even think I follow French-speaking Twitter, and I think there was two brothers who got killed by police. I saw this tweet this morning. It was in French, so I was only able to self-interpret 40% of the tweet, but I understand, two people got killed. There's an issue of obviously police violence against African people in France. And I'm curious how these issues get addressed politically, and hopefully maybe our guest on Thursday will be able to answer some of those questions.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he won on us, that he won. It really, a lot of people were projecting that he could very well lose. And I think like you pointed out, the far right in France has grown significantly. And I think the big reason, kind of like when you see in Britain with the Brexit stuff, is the African or immigrant presence inside of the countries. I mean, it's very much such a huge issue in the minds of these white people, like, oh crap, like our colonial crimes are going to come back on us, and all these people are going to come and basically take over the country. And so I think that subconscious, fear of the African presence inside of their country is really driving a lot of people that direction.
And for the far right, it's not a subconscious fear. That's what they put out there, right? That's their platform. Is you got these Arabs and you got these African immigrants and you got these Muslims of any stripes, and they're messing up our white France. So all that liberalism goes out the window fast, right? And as we know, like they were never liberal in the sense that they were progressive. Even the socialist French were imperialist. So France's history is a long line of imperialism, but talking very liberal crap. And I think I think that's both here and abroad. Basically, the liberals treat their conservative cousins it's like you're stupid and we can do it better. We can hold the empire together better than you can, because we can incorporate the hordes to be our lower tier, because our lower tiered part of our coalition, we can incorporate them in certain ways to serve our purpose. Let us handle it, because we're far more sophisticated than you dummies to do it. And I think that's basically the arrogance of the liberal, is that they feel like they'll hold imperialism together. They have the same racism, right? They think of us the same ways as the conservatives, but they hold their nose and deal with it because they feel like what you guys are going to do is blow it up, destroy it, make us look bad. We can't do our posh dinner parties. So let us handle it. Let us take care of it. And then we'll let in the 2 or 3 who can do some toast on camera, right? We'll let those ones in, but the rest of them we'll keep at bay. And so if you guys shut up and let us do it, we'll take care of the situation.
Yeah, it's I mean, shout out to Haiti, for the good work that they did in sticking their foot in France's ass. You know what I'm saying? And we need more rebellions and uprisings like that. If you all did miss the last interview with Baina Bello talking about Haiti and the Haitian Revolution, I implore you to check that out, because she talked about a number of different women freedom fighters who many folks aren't aware of, that put in some serious work behind the Haitian Revolution. So check that out if you haven't checked it out already, with Professor Baina Bello on the latest Riot Starter TV. We're gonna go to this quick break with the Air Doc, and we'll be back with our guests. And Tierney, what's coming up on your channel?
Well, I'm gonna work on the video. I really want to talk about food shortages, because that's something very serious. Of course, Europe and the US are planning and very much their answer to the food shortages issue because of the Ukraine-Russia conflict is basically, let's just make sure that we cut off, the international trade more and focus more locally. Unfortunately, Africa has become dependent on that same trade. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to do a video and an article on that this week. So that will be awesome.
No doubt. We definitely, as always, we appreciate you dropping in and hang with us, distinguished derelicts here at Black Power Media. And have a powerful week. And we'll see you soon. Checking out the RemiX Morning Show. And the Mind Ear Doctor will be coming back on in a few ticks.
All right,
let's go.
Where you at? Yeah, let's get to it. Right here, we got a break. We're going to talk about somebody and bring them out the light in case you ain't know. So let's go. All right.
Let's go. RemiX Morning Show, Black Power Media.
Yeah. You know what it is right here, right now on the RemiX Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Make sure you hit that like button if you didn't already. You know the rules. You know how we get down. All right. So right now I wanted to take you to class real quick. And big up to all the students I got to speak to the other day at what was it, Morgan State. Big up for Dr. Ball having me come through and speak. Today I wanted to talk about a sister that was one of the first. That's right, one of the first sisters to do something. And who is the sister we're going to talk about right now? We're going to talk about Darlene Anderson. Darlene Anderson, she was one of the first Black women to play professional roller derby. That's right, roller derby. She was on the Brooklyn Red Devils back in 1957. She was born in Pasadena, California. She had like 3 brothers who was all older, and she wanted to play baseball, but her mom said it was too rough. So she said, I'm going to go skating, but didn't tell her mom that it was roller derby skating she was talking about. But she got into it. She pretty much also won in the trials for the Olympics for being one of the fastest skaters. That's why the Brooklyn Red Devils had her as the first pick. She was described as one of the most athletic, fast and everything, as we always are. And she was pretty much very good and very dope. So that was her. She did her thing. She retired back in 1970s. So in case you don't know anything about roller derby and you want to check out some dope roller derby people like Screaming Meanie and different ones that came out at that time, check them out. Now, right now, she's pretty much retired and chilling and doing her thing, still alive. She was in 2009, she was introduced into the Roller Derby Hall of Fame. So that's what it is. Let's give a big up to that one right there. Darlene Anderson. As you can see, she was doing the thug thizzle. Big up to Darlene. Now, let's take it back. And big up to all y'all people that tuned in to Sundays this Sunday as we did the native tongues. That's right, the native tongues. And let's get back to the RemiX Morning Show. But with that said, make sure y'all tune in to Sundays on Sunday at 8 p.m. All right.
It's a long ass commercial.
I dug it though.
Yeah. It's a minute. You know,
it's a minute.
1 minute.
I feel like it was 2 minutes. I feel like it was 2 minutes.
I feel like he was waiting for a whole minute and didn't even realize.
Can I say something real quick, Ear Doctor, about the sister that you just featured? Do you guys understand like how many more amazing women athletes there could be if girls weren't told, hey, you can't play this sport because that's for boys? If we didn't fucking discriminate against girls who wanted to wrestle or play football or play baseball instead of softball, who knew that they had the physical prowess and the athleticism to compete with boys, except some fucking idiot adult told them that no, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right. Like people whole lives change because some idiot adult will say don't do it, or the facilities aren't there.
How about
because
that?
They go to bad schools or poor schools, resource poor school, and they don't have the facilities to even explore. So one of the things, I forget about the bad movie, but like with the Williams sisters, that was all because the parents had some preconceived notion that they want to do these things with their kids. But it wasn't like there was a system in place for poor kids to sort of like figure out, particularly athletically, what they wanted to do and how they could do it and how they could achieve it. That was just the ingenuity of a particular family. So you're right. It's like it's the overt racism and patriarchy,
gender discrimination, yes,
and patriarchy and gender discrimination, and the lack of resources, in particular for women, for sports that may be geared towards women, right? Or things that women might be interested in. When there's basketball courts, the dudes get to dominate on the basketball courts because they make time to do male teams and all the rest of it. So
yeah. And the other part of that, I know some girls who probably wanted to play football. And one of the reasons that was given for them not being allowed to play football is that the boys are going to go out of their way to hurt you. And that's something that we need to address also. We need to address that. We need to address that because I had one of my family members when they were a girl wanted to play football and their father wouldn't let them. Football, sir. What you mean?
Or soccer. Or you mean soccer?
I'm talking about American football, pads, bro, helmets. Pads and helmets, okay? And the father wouldn't let the daughter play football because he was afraid that the boys were going to intentionally try to hurt her. And he's probably right. He was probably right.
Even if it wasn't intentional.
We will go out the way.
Let me ask. So since we seem to have so you don't think like the male body compared to there's differences or whatever like that, but on average, the muscularity, particularly the upper body strength, might be a little bit more in terms of like a sport like football. That's pure contact.
Yeah, because your insides are stronger than ours. I give that to y'all all day.
I didn't say that. I'm not.
I say it.
Listen, right now. I don't know what he's saying.
Women's insides are strong.
I'm not co-signing that. I'm not co-signing that.
Guys cannot mess with what they have pushing out babies and having bleeding. Man, please.
Let me just say this. I mean, when we're talking about kids, like Pop Warner age, right? 6 to let's say 12. I mean, boys and girls are pretty evenly matched physically, right? There's not that much difference, I don't think, between boys and girls, really, because there's a lot of late blooming boys out here. Boys don't usually start to get they nuts, I guess. I don't know what boys do, but I know that testosterone doesn't really kick into like 12, 13. So let's say 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, these kids are about the same. So I hear what you're saying, Kamau, as they get a little older.
Okay.
Yeah.
I accept that. I accept that.
Yeah.
I accept that. Sure. Yeah, I was. People in the chat saying B-Dell. I was like, yeah, I was sweating out how to approach that. Well, it looks like, we are supposed to have a guest coming up soon.
Yeah.
But it looks like there may be a couple of technical issues. So let's roll with maybe one more story or something.
Dig it.
And then when that guest is ready, we can let that guest come on.
Y'all rock out.
Thank you, Ear Doctor. Do you have a story come out? Because
I don't have it ready, but I was unless you got something. I was interested in the Twitter story, but I don't have it.
I'm interested in the Twitter story. What's your Twitter story?
Well, the Twitter story about your boy Elon Musk. Let me try to see if we have.
Hey,
because go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm glad you're here. I got questions. I got mergers and acquisition questions for you, counselor. I got mergers and acquisitions for questions for you, counselor.
Well, let me pull it up, and then we can start the conversation with it. Because last week when we had this conversation, Twitter's official stance on this kind of thing was, hey, we're not going to go forward with it. Elon Musk, forget you. We're not interested at all in your offer, even though it's an extremely huge offer considering what Twitter is probably worth. But now this week, what we have is Twitter accepting Elon Musk's buyout deal. And basically, if I remember correctly, it's a $44 billion package. And Musk kicked off when he offered to buy the company at $54.20 per share. What he called his best and final offer. The Twitter board has accepted the offer. So apparently, I think last week there was a conversation around whether or not he could actually raise the resources. They keep referring to him being the richest person in the world, but let's be clear, he's not necessarily using his own money for this purchase. This is him going out and getting financing and so forth. And then the other thing that, that's related, that's important in the story is that Musk is saying that once he purchases Twitter, he's going to take it private, and then 2, he's talking as if that he's the free speech king, and once he takes it over, that I guess his intention is to allow people to go out, go at it without blocking accounts, which to me reads, I'm about to bring Trump back on this platform. Mm-hmm. So that's So what's your take on it, Kim?
So, from what I understand, that this is not quite a done deal yet, even though the Twitter board has accepted it. I think it still has to be approved by the Twitter shareholders. I'm not familiar with that process. I don't know how likely or unlikely it is that the Twitter shareholders would reject this offer. But if you look at if you take the temperature on Twitter right now, Twitter users are less than thrilled that Elon Musk is set to purchase the company. And maybe it's the Twitter people that I follow, because I've seen Parler and Gab, these right-wing social media spaces. I've seen these places trend. Discord was trending big time yesterday. Slack was trending yesterday. Like, people are just trying to figure out the off-ramp for Twitter, because Elon Musk is such a detestable figure, and he is not a quality business person. Every sort of business success that Elon Musk has had, he's had it because, number one, he was already coming to the table with some money because his people were fucking South African apartheid emerald miners, So it's not like this motherfucker built his wealth. No, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had money in his pocket, and he didn't invent Tesla. He didn't found Tesla. He bought Tesla, right? And so this motherfucker is not an innovative white man at all. He's just a rich white man who can buy up shit. I think that Elon Musk he's just going to re-energize the right wing. I think that white supremacy will be allowed to reign freely on Twitter once again. I totally think he would reinstate Trump. And that actually could help galvanize Trump's 2024 re-election campaign. Trump might be sized. Trump is probably so happy that Elon Musk is about to buy this shit. But anyway, I mean, it doesn't bode well. It doesn't bode well. And even there are some people who are former Tumblr users who are advocating for Twitter users to tank the platform. And apparently that is probably easier than we would all suspect, right? We could probably take Twitter down if we were organized and united in to do so. So I don't know. I don't think this is good, because I think a lot of good work actually happens on Twitter if you follow the right people. I think you can learn a lot. I think a lot of digital organizing happens on Twitter that is unique to Twitter. So I don't know. I'm opposed to this, and I'm hoping that something falls through, because this shit has been going back and forth for the past couple of weeks, like Willie or won't he, Kenny or canny, you know what I mean? So I'm not convinced this is a done deal as of yet.
Yeah, I think that it's probably been in the works for a while, and I think they just started introducing it to us, to the public, over the last couple of weeks. But I think that they already have shit laid out, and I mean, I'm predicting that in the next 2 years there'll be some type of membership fee or something for Twitter. And I honestly don't believe that they care if we, as far as Black folks or even the Democratic Party, leaves that particular sphere, because they'll survive anyway. They have enough money, they have enough influence, and they have enough control and domination over that particular platform. And I'm sure that we probably weren't in mind when they were talking about inventing or putting it together in the first place. So I think that between his space escapades and what's going on with that, to me, I'm looking at it as a small amount of individuals and companies own mass media now. I think I'm looking at this as another newspaper that we've had the opportunity to blog on. We had the opportunity to add our 2 cents to, and now, eventually they'll snatch it up or force us out.
Which is interesting because to me, Black Twitter is a huge component of Twitter. Like for real, like Black Twitter generates content. Black Twitter makes shit trend. Black Twitter helped to bring awareness to many of our folks who have been murdered by the state that we otherwise would not have known about. I mean, Black Twitter has been a cultural force, arguably, for the past decade. Something that has to be acknowledged, you know what I'm saying, and recognized for what the sort of things and conversation and I guess engagement, high levels of global engagement, you know what I mean, on certain topics that Black Twitter explicitly is responsible for. So I'm concerned about Black Twitter. I'm concerned about the future of Black Twitter in the hands of Elon Musk. I wonder if that same level of information spreading will still be available to us once he finally gets his hands on.
I think his other claim is that he's going to make it open source so that people can see the algorithms, which is supposed to be helpful, I guess, in terms of trying to figure out how do some tweets go viral and the rest of it. But I'd say also that obviously this is one rich person and group versus another rich person and group, right? Who they know that the platform can be used for certain things. And I think their bigger interest, obviously, is in making sure that the platform is used. So they obviously don't want to be on the wrong side of someone saying that your platform is being used for hate or to spread this or that. For the most part, right? So particularly the liberal types are interested in controlling that. But they're far more interested in making sure that, one, that there's millions of users so they can get those advertisement dollars, and that they can sell your information because you got to sign into Twitter. You got to put your emails in there. So all that information, they want to make sure that they continue to get that information. And then I think at some point I think this was a competition, again, between rich folks, as in they wanted Musk to be on the board so that they could stop him from going forward with this. So I think those who were the current owners or the leadership of Twitter clearly saw that Musk was making moves in terms of his buying of shares and becoming the largest shareholder or stockholder. And he was offered this board position. And at one point, he was really close to taking it, apparently. In fact, I think he actually accepted the board position. And then he did, I guess, an Elon Musk move and was like, nah, I'm just going to buy the whole shit and, take it private. And once he takes it private, the SEC has nothing to do with it anymore. There's different manifestations or different ways in which private companies can operate, which are going to be different from a public company. So, he's going to try to make that money back, though. I know that for sure.
Yeah, we're going to bring our guest on at about 9:25, right after the ear doctor does this thing at 9:20, because I think that tech is good now. But one story I wanted to touch on as well that's not getting a lot of play is the story of Wynne Allen Bruce, the climate activist who set himself on fire in front of the Supreme Court, on Earth Day. Because I noticed it's not getting a lot of coverage. Intentionally
not getting a lot of coverage.
Right. So to my understanding, this guy is a Buddhist priest. As a friend of his mentioned, it's not an act of suicide, but is a deeply fearless act of compassion to bring attention to the climate crisis. Right. So, this is I know that they said he on his Twitter, he posted a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. The gentleman
Buddhist.
Right. So in 1963, for folks who are not familiar, this brother set himself on fire in public. There's a famous picture of it where he was protesting the atrocities in Vietnam, the Vietnam War, and what was going and how the United States was sponsoring the war crimes and the criminal activities over that way. So I wanted to point that out because traditionally there's been a history of what do you call it?
Immolation.
Self-immolation, right? I'm trying to get that word right. And that we talked about like I said in the past, we spoke about Thich Quan Duc, but also folks like the Tibetan monks the over 100 of them who set themselves on fire to protest Chinese rule.
The
So
Arab Spring was started by a man who self-immolated in Tunisia.
right.
That is how the Arab Spring literally began.
Absolutely. So that was 2 years after the latest when the last Tibetan monks were setting themselves on fire. But I wanted to point that out because of the fact that some people are like, well, how can you set yourself on fire? I mean, that's crazy, whatever, and it's suicide. No, it's not suicide. It's bringing to light what's going on. And literally with the whole climate crisis, one of the things that they wanted to do was show you exactly what's happening with the climate itself and how we can this whole planet will literally burn. But we for some reason, not many folks promote what's going on in the climate. And I think that we're talking about freeing political prisoners, if we're talking about fighting against police terrorism, freeing the planet is one of the main things that we should be addressing, because without the planet itself, we don't have to worry about any of these other issues. But it is a direct result of capitalism and imperialism. So we should look into it. So shout out to Win Allen Bruce for being so brave, to set himself on fire.
Well, and let me also, and as you pointed out, Kalanji, not a lot of people know about this. And I, obviously being here in DC, heard that someone had been airlifted from the steps of the Supreme Court Friday evening. This happened about 6:30. And I was watching local news, watched the rest of the 6 o'clock news, was sure to tune in at 11. These motherfuckers ain't mentioned shit. And let me be clear, in DC, it is not a common occurrence for someone to be airlifted from the city center, from this, especially a place like the Supreme Court. So the fact that this was intentionally blacked out by the media was very telling to me. And and this is something I'm actually going to talk about on my show tonight, because the Radical Whites was busy this weekend. Okay, shout out to the Radical Whites. The Radical Whites had a time. The Radical Whites was out here doing the shit that we need them to do. But as far as this guy's decision, his protest, his extremely brave protest, one excuse that I've heard from journalists saying that the reason why they did not cover it when it was happening is because that when there are stories of suicide, that there can be copycats, right? And I'm like, that is a fucking cop-out, because what this person did was a political statement, and where he did it was absolutely more than worthy, more than newsworthy. Like, this is not something that did not deserve to be covered. But the fact that corporate media intentionally did not cover this story is something that I think people absolutely need to take attention to, and to piggyback off of Win Allen Bruce's amazingly brave act of selflessness. A couple of weekends prior, what they are now calling the scientist rebellion, global climate scientists around the world were engaged in direct actions, trying to call attention to these latest series of climate reports, which indicate the shit is worse than you thought it was. Okay, we are further down this climate catastrophe, disaster, hellscape than you think we are. Okay, like, the shit could be done in about 30 years. It could be real. Shit's gonna get real in the coming decades. And the scientists were trying to pull their hair out, bring attention to this. And it's something that society, all communities, and even within our communities, I mean, shit, we did sort of an environmental justice story here last week, talked about how the city of Chicago denied a permit to a metal scrapping recycling plant that would have worsen the air quality over Black and brown neighborhoods in South Chicago. Like, in the climate is an issue for us. Environmental justice is an issue for us. We're going to see Black and brown people, especially from the global South, become climate refugees as sea levels begin to rise, as crops begin to fail. I mean, this is absolutely some shit that we absolutely need to be engaged in. But I respect so much Win Allen Bruce's sacrifice. And I'm absolutely going to talk about that tonight on my show. I appreciate you bringing it up, Coach.
And really quickly, you know what would have been covered if he was protesting Russia's invasion and he was Ukrainian? That would have been wall to wall coverage
It'd have been everywhere
around the world.
Yes,
We'd be hearing about it over and over again. So
they'd have forced it on Black Power Media. We wouldn't even know how it got there. They'd have had someone just step up on here and start talking about it. We're like, who the fuck is that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I want to point out our next guest. She just actually reminded me that because some folks say, well, Black folks don't do that. Black folks won't be setting themselves on fire. She reminded me that in 1970, brother Willie B. Phillips, a Vietnam veteran, self-immolates himself at the Morris Brown homecoming parade. So, I appreciate that reminder because of the fact that it's not foreign to us. You know what I mean? It's foreign to them. But, like you said, of course, they're not going to promote that because of the fact that it will force folks to look into the fact that the climate is at an all-time low, and that we are headed towards mass extinction, and the planet will replenish itself with or without us. So we can protest, we can talk all the shit we want to talk, but that's one thing that you're not going to be able to stop because these greedy motherfuckers, and that's why the Elon Musk and all these other bastards are trying to run their ass to a whole nother planet, but it ain't going to work. You can't escape. But anyway, we're going to go to the ear doctor real quick, and we'll be back with Mama Afia Wanganza, who is a veteran organizer and freedom fighter out of South Carolina. She's going to talk about some of the bullshit that's going on in South Carolina. RemiX Morning Show.
Did somebody mention Morris Brown?
Yeah.
I'm so glad that
I go to Howard U.
Whoa. Relax.
Actually, y'all, was that what you were saying? Your actual theme song? Was that your song?
It sounds like something they stole from Howard.
That's the only thing the ear doctor learned while he was at Morris Brown. The theme song.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get to this break. I'm done with y'all.
RemiX Morning Show, BPM. Let's go.
All right. Listen, everybody want to sing that song. I'm so glad that I go to Morris Brown. But anyway, let's go ahead and give you a real quick history lesson on some hip-hop icons. What icons am I going to talk about today? No other than, did you hear that beat right there that was coming in? That's right. We are going to talk about the Fat Boys. That's right. Fat Boys straight out of New York. First, before they were known as the Fat Boys, they was known as Disco 3. They was discovered in a talent show by Curtis Blow. And Curtis Blow wound up producing 2 albums for him. That's right. And also they had an album that was called Cruising that went platinum because they had a song on there called Wipeout. That's right. They was one of the first groups to do the crossover mainstream, get an artist from another genre to come over, and blew up with the Beach Boys Wipeout, and also with this song with Chubby Checker, Do the Twist. You had 3 brothers right here: Mark Morales, Prince Marky D, Damon Wibley, known as Cool Rock Ski, and Darren Robinson, the Human Beatbox. Now we have only one that's still survivor that goes by the name of Cool Rock Ski. So big up to him. I must say some keynotes about them. You can see them in 3 movies, which was Crush Groove, Knights of the City, and Disorderly. They was one of the first to have a contract with the Swatch watches. That's right. They had a commercial with them. And Stickum was the first acapella hip hop song ever. They was on a big Fresh Fest tour with Pepsi. So they pretty much put it down with the whole Run DMC, Beastie Boys, the whole beginnings of hip hop, and brought in that era. So I just wanted to give a big up to the Fat Boys. In case you don't know, they dropped over, what was it, about 10 albums. That's right. So go check them out. That's what it is right here on the RemiX Morning Show. Big up to the Fat Boys. Yeah. In jail without the bell. Yeah. So that's what it is.
No doubt. Shout out to the Fat Boys.
I
You know what I'm
love the
saying?
Fat Boys. Like the Fat Boys were, they were in the 80s, mid 80s, whatever. And obviously I was a child. And that was like, the sort of rap that I was allowed to consume, right? That the happy, fun, party sort of rap, fun rap. And so I remember the Fat Boys very fondly. I saw Disorderlies a lot of times.
I hated Disorderlies, but but I love
Crush
the Fat
Groove
Boys.
was the joint though.
Crush Groove was definitely the joint. But anyway, thank you for that Fat Boys joint. Ear Doctor's on the road today. He went from white sugar to the Fat Boys. You got something you trying to say today?
You know they consumed a lot of sugar. Anyway, I'll catch y'all later.
It's a theme, Kalonji. It's a theme.
Something bad wrong with that boy. Anyway, our next guest, I think she's ready to rock with us. She is out of Greenville, South Carolina. She's the founder, president, and CEO of African American Institute for Policy Studies and Planning. She's a civil and human rights organizer, advocate, popular educator, guest columnist. She is an attorney. I had the opportunity to organize with her for a while. I met her, been on her about 20 years. I think we met up in Brooklyn or Queens, I believe, at one of the political prisoner dinners that Baba Herman Ferguson and Ealua Ferguson put together. And then later on, I ventured down to South Carolina, had the opportunity to hang out with her and do a little organizing out there with her. And I remember right before I moved to Atlanta, I said I was moving to Atlanta to organize because I was still living in Connecticut. And she basically told me, she said, look, it's easy to organize in Atlanta. Atlanta ain't, anybody could do that. Organizing in Greenville, South Carolina, that's when you organize. And she was right. And I learned a lot from her from afar and up close. She cussed my black ass out one time because I was young and I thought I knew what time it was, like many of you in the chat. And
it helped you, didn't it, Kalonji? It helped you out, didn't it? It helped you grow.
It absolutely did. And I want to say, and I'm saying this because of the fact that, she's like a one-woman gang out there. I lived in Greenville, South Carolina for years. And to organize in an atmosphere like that is incredible. She does the Malcolm X festival out there every year, rain, sleet, or snow. Well, it's not really snow.
I'm about to say sleet, sir.
Yeah,
yeah.
But she puts in that work. So we're gonna come back with Afia Wanganza in about 2 seconds. Remix. Peace, Mama Phil. What's happening with you?
Hanging in there. How about you?
Hey man, same program. We still rumbling.
Right.
Good to see you today.
All the way live this morning.
Man, we gotta be, man. They're killing us out here, so we gotta at least find some time to smile and act a fool, and try to add some flavor to it. But yeah, definitely glad to see you this morning.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we know you out in the wonderful world of whiteness in Greenville, South Carolina, and we know it's harder than the times. And South Carolina as a whole traditionally has been folks don't really talk about South Carolina. They talk about Alabama, they talk about Mississippi, but they don't talk about what comes up out of that area. And
that's right.
There's a few things going on right now I wanted to bring you on to talk about. For one of the egregious and outrageous crimes and situations going on right now is that the firing squad was reinstated about a year ago. And there's a gentleman that's scheduled to be put to death by firing squad, I believe, this week, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk about that?
Well, he was scheduled to put Brother Richard Moore was scheduled to be put to be murdered by firing squad. We shouldn't be dignifying this state violence with all these euphemisms.
Right.
He was scheduled to be murdered by a firing squad on Wednesday, and his attorneys filed a motion to have it stayed, um, and raising additional issues, ranging from the nature of the mechanism that had been created by the state to quote unquote satisfy the state Supreme Court's requirements for a firing squad, that they actually create a vehicle. And the vehicle that they came up with was a metal chair with set against a metal wall with a with straps, little looking very much like the electric chair, except that everything was metal, and that the shooters could be held so many feet away in a separate room. I don't know if you all can see this picture with any kind of clarity. But this here is the metal chair. So the idea was like instead of the electric chair, to instead seat the person in this metal chair, strap them in, and then shoot them. I mean, if you can't, how much more barbaric could anyone possibly be? And what was the mind, the depth of insanity that the person who came up with that design must be experiencing? They spent $53,000 to create that monstrosity. The court, without full detail, indicated that that was not a satisfactory protocol or device, and as a result of that, delayed the murder of Richard Moore and of the second person who was scheduled to follow him in execution. They are still trying to get chemicals. The history of the death penalty and the move towards abolition has been a gradual one, with the early efforts to do away with the electric chair because they began malfunctioning, taking hours to kill people, provided the kind of data that was necessary to convince the U.S. Supreme Court that it was cruel and inhuman punishment. The movement to abolish the death penalty continued with the questionable demand that chemicals be used. And so out of that came the injection. And then we were able to shame the chemical manufacturers into denying access to their chemicals, and on the basis that they were, at least theoretically, supposed to be for healing and not for death, so that it made it more difficult for states to get a hold of the chemicals. And South Carolina has been without them for almost 10 years, since 2013. It has been unable to pass what is called a SHIELD law. The SHIELD law would make secret the name of the manufacturers that would provide the chemicals for the murders. And while they have raised the firing squad, they have not been able to pass the Shield law, although the campaign continues. I wanted to affirm the point that you made about the fact that folks don't talk about South Carolina. And I often say that the only reason people think Mississippi is worse than South Carolina is because South Carolina is more sophisticated and has a better public relations mechanism. But we must remember that it was South Carolina that fired the first shot to perpetuate the Holocaust of enslavement, or the Ma'afa, that it was South Carolina that was the first so-called sundown state after the Civil War, that if you were not in the employ of some local white, or had some white who was going to approve of you, speak for you, as they put it, that you had to be out of the state of South Carolina when the sun went down to reduce the number of African people in South Carolina. South Carolina is the model that was used for apartheid South Africa. So we need to learn more and more about our history and where our missteps have been. And you need to come on home and help win this battle. You're still not off the hook.
So I'm still being drafted. My
That's
mother,
right.
my mother used to tell me stories. Of course, she graduated from Sterling High School the last year that Sterling High School existed in Greenville, and she often tells us stories about them trying to the whole them having to sit in the back of the bus type situation and move when white folks are coming on the sidewalk and all this other type stuff. And she also talked about how they would catch them and put something on the white folks when they could. You know what I'm saying? So, but you tell me about the Woolworths and all that stuff. Yeah. So I think she did enough time out in Greenville to cover me. But
I don't think so. So you're gonna be the generation that betrays your duty.
Oh man, you gonna do me like that? I spent time at 4 McGee Street and Broad River, so
All right.
Yeah.
That was it. That was instructive.
That was instructive, man. We'll see, man. I'm in the twilight now, but
All right.
But yeah, I mean, getting back to this whole execution, you said it cost $54,000 for them to put together the chair to gun this man down.
$53,000 is what they have reported publicly. I suspect that given the level of corruption, that when the real figures come out, it'll be significantly more than that. Of course, that doesn't include the cost of litigation, nor does it include the cost of the public relations firm that has tried to sell it. So at a minimum, $53,000 for a strap-in metal chair in front of a metal sheet where 3 shooters, quote unquote, volunteer shooters, will stand 6 feet away from the person and fire bullets into his or her body. Barbaric, insane.
I mean, it's totally insane. So it's not okay. He was accused. Now let's talk about his case, because of the fact that I know that folks, the crackers advocates out there sitting there like, well, what did he do? You know what I'm saying? They want to put him in front of a firing squad. And I want to point out too that his name is actually Deruba's surname. His
right.
So that I find that ironic. I'm wondering if that pissed him off as well. But because that's
actually,
well
it's
enough.
Richard. It's Deruba's whole first and last name, Richard Moore. Right. Well, I don't think that, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in their crew knew that, but it's kind of like the meaning that has been given to the word picnic. You know, anybody will do. And the facts of his case are that he went into a grocery store, convenience store, to rob the convenience store, unarmed, I might point out. And the proprietor or the cashier who was on duty came out with a gun. And Brother Moore took the gun away from him. And the white man white cashier came up with a second gun. And as a result of that, they wound up shooting at each other. Richard Moore was successful and the white boy was not. And so, of course, the white boy died. In a sane society, first of all, Richard Moore would have had the resources necessary to be able to live a life wherein he would be able to fulfill his human potential without engaging in exploitation. Right. But that failing, the self-defense, but of course, Black people, as we know, have no right of self-defense against white people, and especially the use of deadly force as a form of self-defense. So as a result of that, an all-white jury convicted him, and he sentenced him to death. So he's been on death row for the past 20 plus years, with various campaigns going on in his behalf from various organizations. I think probably the earliest was Amnesty International, beginning with the local chapter of which I was a co-founder here in Greenville. And over the years, various other groups have taken on the task in support of his legal team. He's been very fortunate in that he has been able to have legal support. Beginning earliest, I believe, was John Bloom with the Atlanta Human Rights Center. You know, a lot of people think that the campaign against the death penalty began with Brian Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative, but we were at it way before. In fact, he probably wasn't even in college when, not to mention law school, when the campaign to abolish the death penalty, the modern campaign to abolish the death penalty began in the United States, given deference to the Ida B. Wells anti-lynching campaign and its uptake by the NAACP, of which he, of course, was a co-founder, recognizing that the death penalty is just lynching evolved.
Right on. Right on. So what are some of the proactive steps that our viewers can take in regards to this scheduled murder? Because you're talking about, okay, he's accused of killing one white person, and now you have 3 shooters ready to take aim and fire after his 20 years on death row. You end that with a firing squad. I mean, I guess if he knew that, then he might as well had just went ahead and shot it out with the police back then, and just went ahead and went out like a champ. Not that I'm advocating that, but I'm just saying. You have a choice.
I'll need to put the information in the chat, but I would urge folk to continue to contact the solicitor's office, the state supreme court, Beatty, Chief Justice Beatty, who's a brother, to urge that the Supreme Court continue to hold the line against this barbaric practice, and to declare it unconstitutional in that it is, in fact, cruel, unusual, and inhumane. That they would also contact the South Carolina Department of Corrections, and urge that that it take a stand against the death penalty, because of the, even if they don't care about the people that they're about to kill, the impact that it has on staff. When persons, even when they purport to volunteer to kill a person, suffer trauma as a result of it, which affects them for the rest of their life. And they're having difficult enough time as it is hiring staff, but this is going to make it that much more difficult. And I'll put that contact information in the chat.
We appreciate that, and I imagine the taste for blood that some of these barbarians would have after having the right to legally use a human being as a target. I mean, legally, constitutionally, in the state of South Carolina, that they can actually hunt a man. What type of what type of I mean, this is, I mean, it's so insane that when I first read it, I thought it was like some type of tabloid report. We have a couple more minutes, and in that, I want to ask you real quick about you know, what's going on with the voting. They have some crazy voting registration and voting laws going on right now as well.
South Carolina, like the many states across the country, Republican held states across the country, has brought legislation to, in fact, they just passed it last Thursday. Today is Tuesday. Yeah, last Thursday. I believe it's 8331. The governor hasn't signed it, and it does have to go back to the House. The South Carolina Senate passed it, where the effort is so granular that the one change that it made was to require that persons, first of all, have to personally are required to request an absentee ballot. And they have to have a witness to sign the request. Of course, that makes it that much more difficult, especially if you're homebound, to be able to have a witness, number one. Number two, people who request, who do absentee voting, that they have to have either a relative or a caregiver, which oftentimes wind up being a service, a home care service, and not necessarily a relative, rather than having a designated person who could be any one of those things. Could be a relative, it could be a caregiver, to be able to make the request for the ballot and return the ballot. So they, at this point, are saying, no, the designated person cannot be used, which is the effort to wipe out volunteers, organizations, and anyone, voting rights advocates and workers who would be assisting in advancing our votes, and the votes of anyone who's disabled, but especially Black votes. the reduction in the number of days before the deadline for, first of all, requesting absentee ballots, and secondly, for filing absentee ballots, which of course means that it's not just a matter of having them postmarked before a certain deadline. They have to arrive before a certain deadline, which of course no one can control because we don't control the post office.
Right.
Other mechanisms is the number of pieces of identification that one is required to produce in order to just register to vote. South Carolina is exceptional in one regard, which may wind up having less and less meaning, and that is that it does not have absolute felony disenfranchisement. Once a person is off paper, completed whatever his or her sentence is, probation, parole, the actual sentence, then he or she can register to vote if he or she is able to provide the necessary pieces of identification, which includes a birth certificate, social security card, and some other state issued identification, which can be very, very difficult, especially for Black people of age, significant age, and in rural areas. So they've tailored it in order to reduce the likelihood of participation. I would add, of course, that they've also reduced the number of voting places, so that it's hours for Black people to vote, while minutes for white people to be able to vote. So and of course, South Carolina is one of the states that filed litigation as soon as the Voting Rights Act was passed. And it has not stopped its campaign to disenfranchise African people from its inception. There is the Tillman Constitution, which after Reconstruction and the Compromise, that the South Carolina Constitution was rewritten to write us out, with poll taxes and legacy voting, that if your grandfather could vote, then you could vote. Well, of course, since we were just coming out of the Ma'afa, our grandparents weren't able to register and vote. So South Carolina has been a leader and is a leader in racial voting disenfranchisement, through the manipulation of the voting laws to the application of the criminal punishment laws, with the excessive sentencing and harsh conditions.
Well, hey, we're going to bring you back on here for sure. I appreciate you giving us this update on the very racist state of South Carolina, for folks who are not aware. And, keep up the good fight. I'll dip through there from time to time to assist you. But, damn well they have a special...
Can I just say this? One, I wanted to affirm the observations that you all made with regard to the hashtaggers, the Black Lives Matter hashtag, and to call out, give a shout out to Tamara Rice, who began to call them, all these opportunists out way earlier on. She didn't get much publicity, but with $90 million on the table, even white folks took a notice, right? Of the hashtaggers. And I want to call out my SNCC veteran colleagues, the SNCC Legacy Project, and other veterans who are so ready to give up the gauntlet and pass it on without examination and due diligence, because these young women were crowned the queen of the next generation. And as we see, not only were they not ready to be the leaders of the next generation, they were just exactly what we don't need or don't want young folk doing. So I thank you for the opportunity to participate and to join you all this morning.
Right on. I appreciate you, and we also appreciate you co-signing our madness. This is Mama Afia Wanganza, attorney and freedom fighter, and you heard it from her first. F the hashtaggers, and we'll be right back with you on the RemiX Morning Show. See you soon, Mama Afia.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace. What's happening?
What's going on?
Man.
Outstanding interview there. Many gems dropped from Mama Afia. That was a real blessing. Thank you so much, Kalonji, for bringing that to us this morning. We needed that.
No doubt. We sometimes we need and I like the fact that she didn't hold no punches, saying, look, shout out to my veteran comrades who are guilty of co-signing the nonsense without doing what we're supposed to do. And again, that's the importance when we talk about organization, because oftentimes we're quick to accept folks based on, they want to do the work. It goes beyond that. We have to be able to have a vetting process. You have to know what stock did you come from? Where did you come from? Who co-signs for you? Who taught you? Where did you get your political education from? And if you haven't, and if you can't do that, no matter, it's okay to help, but you just can't get close to where we need you, where you'd like to be. You know what I'm saying? Go out and hand out some of these flyers, join the protests and all that, and keep your mouth shut.
I mean, but you understand this, Kalonji. A lot of us are very susceptible to branding, to marketing, to public relations, to, when things are packaged very well and presented in a way that is clear, that people can understand, people nod their heads and be like, oh, well, that must be the right folks then. I mean, vetting, like you said, that's why it's important for platforms like this to be able to make sure that we are either holding people accountable or calling them out outright, so folks can at least come to a different source to get a different perspective on, the branding, right? On the brand that has been presented.
Yeah, and that's a holdover from capitalism, because that's what capitalism does. It props up what and tells you what you need, what you want. You know what I'm saying? It's like what Imam Jamil, formerly H. Rap Brown, said. He said they'll take you off the offense and put you on the defense. You're like, I want to be free. They say, nah, you don't want freedom. You just want to marry my daughter. The next thing you arguing over whether or not you want to marry their daughter. You know what I'm saying? But so stay tuned, stay on point. We appreciate you here at the RemiX Morning Show for joining us this morning. Excuse me, man. Shout out to Kim. Man,
simmer down, bro. Get yourself together. Yay. Listen, chat, we appreciate y'all showing up today. Do us a favor on your way out the door. Could you kindly give us a thumbs up? If you are not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to Black Power Media. Do us a favor, help spread the word. I think our next subscriber benchmark that we're aiming to achieve is 25,000 subscribers. So y'all got us to 16K in a few days. So I know we can get to that 25K, no sweat. So spread the word, tell everybody about the platform. We hope to see you back here tomorrow morning for the Wednesday edition of the RemiX Morning Show. Now, we seem to have lost a couple people. Kalonji, we was deeper than this. Where did everybody go?
That's right. They got nervous, but it's all good though. But anyway, we'll see you all tomorrow. RemiX Morning Show.
Deuces, y'all. Peace.